Good morning. Hello. Good morning. Good morning on this early Monday morning. Today I will present to you the 2017 annual figures and also present to you the Q4 annual figures. And then I will later in the presentation provide some more comments on our updated strategy for the next 5 years. I will conclude the presentation with our targets for 2018. Just as an introduction briefly, Asian Seafoods Cold Storage comprises 5 business segments. Hello, is this better? Right. Asian Seafoods Cold Storage has 5 business segments. One segment is our frozen seafood, which is mainly squid, shrimp and sea lago. And this comprised in 2017 around 4.1 billion baht in sales turnover. We also operate a tuna canning factory in which we sell around 1.1 billion baht. We have a pet food business, which is 2.7 billion baht, a feed business where we produce feed for shrimp and fish of around 1.5 billion baht, and then we have a relatively small trading business where we sell 0.7 billion baht. In our genes, we are very much committed to having a sustainable product and sustainable way of producing our seafood. This goes with sustainability in terms of environmental sense, but also in labor conditions and quality. And Asian was one of the first companies to commit to the anti-corruption charter that was signed several years ago among stock-listed companies. Looking at the full year 2017, we had a good year. Our sales revenues reached 9,740 million baht, which was a 6% increase compared to last year. However, if you look at our volumes, they increased 15%. And particularly in pet food and aqua feed, we saw very steep volume increases. In the sales revenues, we suffered from an exchange rate effect. When we look at the end of 2017, the dollar noted 11% lower compared to a year before. And that has its effect on our financials, and particularly in the top line results. Our sales revenues are 80% invoiced in dollars. So on average, this effect was 8%. Our gross profit margin is 10.5% over the year, and this is well in line with what we want to achieve on the long term. Last year it was 8.4%, so we saw a significant increase even despite the exchange rate effects here. The net profit was 418 million baht, which was what we expected in the course of the year. We had a very steady profit throughout the 4 quarters. This includes though a tax credit of 41 million baht, which was related to tax losses from the past, which were carried forward and could be activated. Also this year, what helped in our net profit was a lower allowance for doubtful debt. Looking at working capital, our receivable days went down from 46 to 43 days. Our account payable days went also slightly down from 26 to 25. Inventory days, however, went up from 95 to 106, and as a result, our net working capital also increased with 9 days. Altogether, in terms of money, our net working capital amounted 3.3 billion baht, which was a significant increase compared to last year, and the reason for this was mostly in inventories. Our return on equity, which is measured for the average profit over the last 12 months, amounted 17.3%, which was a big increase compared to the years before. Looking at our balance sheet, our current ratio improved slightly from 1.3 to 1.4. Due to the retained earnings, our debt equity ratio also reduced from 1.9 to 1.7, and our net debt to equity ratio improved slightly at around 1.4. The total net debt was 3.4 billion baht, which was an increase, and that was mainly a result of the higher working capital. If you compare our financing structure with 2013, we are now financed for around two-thirds in long-term instruments, of which, of course, part will be classified as a current portion. And this is also our longer-term strategy. I expect that we will maintain this kind of split of our funding requirements in the future. We are selling mostly to abroad. 22% of our sales is in Thailand, and that is almost entirely fish feed, which we sell to Thai fish farmers, and our own distribution business. All the rest is exported. Biggest markets are the US with 31% and Europe 21%, and then we have a pretty broad spread over Japan, the Middle East, Australia, and New Zealand, and other, which is mostly China. Our share price has been moving in the past 1.5 years. This has been stable for years, around 3 baht, which was pretty much under par value. And due to an increased interest by investors and more active trading, our share price have now increased to around moving around between 9 and 10 baht. It's good to see that total number of shareholders is now around 5,000 people, and this is a big increase compared to a year ago. And of course, it is our intention to make this share as broadly available as possible. In our board meeting, it is proposed to distribute 25 satang dividend. That is the same as what has been distributed last year. 25 satang is around 32% of our net profit in 2017. Zooming in on Q4, this slide presents the quarterly results since Q1 2012, and what you see is that there is a seasonality. The first 2 quarters usually are slow, and the second 2 quarters are higher. Also, you see the effect that we had from EMS. That was a shrimp disease that occurred in 2012, and that caused big difficulties in our shrimp business mainly. We are recovering from that, and for the 3rd consecutive year, our sales and profits have increased. In Q4, our total sales revenues amounted to 2.6 billion baht, and that was 10% below last year, of which a substantial part was due to exchange rates. And in Q4, we also suffered of low sales in our squid business. We produced Thai squid, which was not readily available. The catches were low in the last 2 quarters of last year. And this coincided with a bumper catch in South America, which caused squid prices to decline in prices. So overall, Thai squid was relatively expensive, and that affected demand quite a lot. This situation started in Q3 last year. It continued in Q4, and I don't expect many improvements here in Q1. Our gross profit was 224 million baht, which was 8.6% of the revenues. And this was 45 million below the same quarter last year. And like I mentioned, the squid business had a big impact on that, but also, of course, exchange rate was not favorable and had an impact. If you look at our profitability over time, Q4, as I mentioned, 8.6% gross profit margin, slightly lower compared to the 9.3% last year. And again, I estimate the exchange rate impact was roughly 0.8% in Q4. So corrected for that, it would be in a similar profitability as last year. Net profit Q4 was 106 million baht, which was down from the 125 million last year. One comment. Last year we had almost 50 million baht insurance claim reimbursement, which was included in Q4. Our working capital accounts receivable days increased from 37 to 43%, and that was mostly in our pet food business, where we see that there's a pressure to extend receivable days. And as our pet food business is growing, this also is reflected in the overall consolidated numbers. Accounts payable were stable, and so were the inventory days. Still high compared to previous years, but stable. If I look at our return on equity, this amounted to 17.3%, which was slightly below the last quarter. Our quarterly balance sheet, very much in line, of course, with our Q4 or with our full year numbers. Current ratio 1.4, which was stable compared to the quarter before. Our debt to equity ratio decreased from 1.8 to 1.7, and our net debt to equity ratio amounted 1.4, slightly down from the quarter before. Our net debt slightly decreased compared to the quarter before, and our balance sheet, our loan structure is as I mentioned in our annual report. If I look at the developments per segment, you know, in our frozen business we operate 3 factories. One in Bangkok, one in Samut Sakhon, and one in Surat Thani. Altogether, we have around 30,000 ton of finished good capacity in shrimp, squid, and silago. Our sales revenues in the frozen business declined 26% year on year to 1.2 billion baht. And this was mainly due to lower sales in our squid. We sold in Q4 only 14% squid products, and this was the year before more than half of the sales. Shrimp revenues in Q4 were slightly higher than the year before, and I think this is a positive trend. In the squid in the shrimp production, originally we expected this would increase with around 10% from 300,000 tons to 330,000 tons. This in fact didn't happen. The farmed volumes were more or less flat, and this was not a result of diseases or demand. It was actually mostly related to weather conditions, which were particularly in the beginning of the year very unfavorable with lots of rain. We expect for this year that there will be an increase, hopefully if we don't have that extreme weather as last year, because the infrastructure is there, the capacity is there, profitability in shrimp farming is okay, and also demand remains strong. Looking at the full year, we sold 4.1 billion in frozen seafood. It was a decrease of 12%, and again, this was mostly due to the decrease in squid sales in the last half of the year. Also, the lower exchange rate, and I estimate this had a 5% impact on our top-line revenues, had an impact on our sales revenues. The gross profit overall was good in shrimp, better than the year before. However, in Q4 we had to take a write-down of inventory positions in squid, and that affected our gross profitability in the frozen segment. Our tuna business is based in Samut Sakhon. We process tuna in Asian Alliance International, and that's the same factory where we also produce our pet food. Our sales went down with 28% compared to the year before, and this was due to extremely high tuna prices, which peaked in October at more than $2,300. Customers were reluctant to accept that kind of pricing, and as you know, we are flexible in the volume that we process. If we can't get decent margins in our tuna business, we shift more capacity to pet food, and that's what we have done in Q4. We have scaled down our volumes in tuna, and that caused the 28% decrease in our sales values. Our margins, however, were relatively okay. Our pet food business, we are positioning ourselves in the premium or super premium segment of the market, and we try to be a co-developer for our customers. We don't operate our own brands. We work for branded pet food companies. Our total production capacity has increased to 34,000 tons, and we are working on further capacity increases, which should allow us to grow this business further in the coming years. We had a good Q4. Our sales were 684 million baht, and that was 27% up from the same quarter last year. Again, you see exchange rate effects. Our volume grew 35%, but as I mentioned, compared to a year ago, the US dollar was weakened by 11%. And in pet food, we have long-term contracts, which have a bigger impact by exchange rates. We can adjust prices, and we do, but in practice, you see, this is always a lagging the exchange rate effects. In Q4, we commissioned our second dog food line, and this is operational and working well, and we expect that we can fill this line in the course of this year with additional volume, and may reach a good utilization rate by the end of this year. In the cat food line, we are currently commissioning a third line, and I expect that to be operational by the end of this quarter. And we will follow up by pouch lines in Q2. This is the full year, and I show this slide to show you the increase of plastic cups and plastic tubs. This is where we believe the market will move to, fewer cans and more plastic cups, and likely also more pouches. The relative percentage of our pouch business has decreased, and this is not because demand is not there, but because we are reaching the limit of our capacity, and that's why we are commissioning a second pouch line in April this year. The sales revenues for the total year increased almost with 70% to 2.7 billion baht, and this was substantially higher than what we targeted for at the beginning of the year. And this is all related to additional volumes. I mentioned our capacity increases, and I expect that we will get that all operational by the end of Q2. Our aquaculture feed business, we have one factory in Phetchaburi, two types of products. One is pelleted feed, which is used in shrimp feed, and one is extruded feed, which we use for fish types. We also operate our own farm where we test our diets and also test new farming methods. And as part of our service, we operate a team of laboratory staff to help our customers identify diseases and optimize water quality as much as possible. In Q4, we had a 5% decrease of our sales compared to the same quarter last year, to 348 million baht. And this was directly related to the farmed volumes. Our margins were stable and good throughout the year, and we were happy that we had relatively better bottom line results because the quality of our accounts receivable improved, and we had less allowances for bad debts this year. Our distribution business, we import fish for our own requirements in other segments, and we also use those relationships in order to trade fish into modern retail here in Thailand. A bit of an opportunistic business. The last year was good. Q4 we had strong volumes and good margins, and altogether we sold 665 million baht in this segment last year. I'd like to mention a few words about our strategy going forward. 1.5 years ago, we launched our strategy Ambition 2020, which assumed that we would increase our sales revenues to almost 15 billion baht, which would be double the 2015 sales revenues. And this would assume a significant increase of our shrimp business, of our frozen business, on the back of increasing shrimp volumes that are being farmed in Thailand. We would anticipate more or less stable development in our tuna business. We would grow our pet food business significantly from 1.6 billion to 4 billion baht. And our feed business would also, due to increased shrimp volumes, grow from 1.1 to 2 billion baht. And in the distribution business, our preference would be to look for acquisition partners in order to better utilize our distribution system. So not only in sales revenues, also in profitability, we want to increase our performance. Historically, we have been trading at 8.2, 8.4% gross profit, and the ambition is to bring that to 10 to 12%. So improving our product portfolio and our customer portfolio. We are well underway, and 2017 showed a 15% increase in volumes. It also showed a gross profitability of 10.5%, which was in line with our longer term goals. But also in view of market circumstances, and particularly the uncertainty of stable shrimp growth, and the fact that we had seen some volatility in our squid business, we have further reviewed our strategy and made some additional or identified some additional actions that we are going to implement the next few years. And we summarize that by being closer to the consumer and improve our efficiency in our operations. In a bit more detail, our frozen business, we have been focusing on quality, and quality not only meaning how the product looks and how it tastes, but also in how it is produced. And that is an attribute that we would like to communicate better to our customers, and that means also that we need to get closer to our consumers, to the customers in our key markets, and therefore we will intensify our marketing and sales efforts in the coming years. In shrimp, we are actively looking to improve our position in the chain, and that means more involvement in farming and more involvement in shrimp larvae supply. We already have our 4-star quality program, which means certified farming, certified hatcheries, certified processing, and certified feed. And this is what we would like to expand in the future. We also intend to diversify our product portfolio in frozen, specifically with entering into the sea bass market. We are already providing feed for sea bass, and as such we have a good communication and access with sea bass farmers, and we will expand that involvement in the chain by processing and marketing of sea bass going forward. In squid and the Kisu sales, we have actually long established brands, and with more focus on marketing these brands, we expect that we can also improve the profitability of this product. Both products are somewhat limited by availability. Thai squid is a limited resource, and so is Silago. So our objective is to be more clever in our marketing and improve our margins in those markets. Tuna, we have our strategy is unchanged. We have no ambition to grow our tuna business. We are processing tuna because it is necessary for our pet food productions, and that's what we like to continue to do. So we tailor our tuna volumes to the requirements of our pet food, unless there are market opportunities to do better. In some cases we can sell at good margins, and then we will do, and otherwise we don't. In our feed, Also, we continue to focus on product quality and optimization of diets. I expect this will become more important in the future. For the past 2 years, we have seen fish meal prices rather stable. Fish meal is an important ingredient for fish feed. I expect that the fish meal market may be a bit more volatile going forward, which means that we need to continue focusing on substitution of this ingredient for other ingredients. And so far we have done that quite well, and the focus will be to continue doing so. Also, we are looking for ways to get involved in dry pet food. We have seen a big increase in demand in wet pet food, and many of our international customers are also interested in dry pet food. Dry pet food has a very similar production technology as fish feed, which we are very familiar with. So as such, it makes sense to consider entering into that business as well. Overall, we like I said, we want to be closer to our customers, and that means that we also have more physical presence in our key markets. We will establish sales offices in Europe, in America, and in China, in order to import and distribute frozen products and pet food. In our internal processes, we have implemented SAP late 2015. We are now working for almost 1.5 years with SAP. This, in order to fully utilize it, we took around 3 years time to expand first of all the SAP into different factories, and secondly to utilize the functionality to also do our raw material requirement planning and our production planning. And this is where we will focus on this year. And internally also we employ more than 6,500 people. And we think we can do better in our people development, and this is what will be a focus area for the next few years as well. For 2018 we have a few specific projects. I already mentioned capacity expansion of our pet food, our wet pet food. And we expect to invest around 68 million baht in the extension of our pouch and plastic cup cat lines. We also will start with the construction of an automatic warehouse, which is a fairly large investment of 230 million baht. And this will take considerable time. I think it will be operational by the end of Q2 next year. This will be a fully automatic warehouse, and what we hope to achieve is a significant reduction of labor, but more importantly, more reliable shipping records. This will allow us to program containers in the computer and then automatically collect the right products from the warehouse and fill the containers. Like I mentioned, SAP, we will expand it. We will implement it this year in our feed business, and that will be around 25 million baht investment. And in order to anticipate an international sales structure, we have set up a subsidiary company, Asian Group Services, which will comprise our marketing activities and also be a holding company for our international offices. And one of those offices will be in Germany, where we expect to invest 10 million baht in a sales and marketing outfit. We also expect to enter into a joint venture in Thailand, Interpretina, which is a joint venture with Interpharma, and we will develop a wet pet food brand together in order for to distribute this in Thailand. This is an exciting project. We have no experience with branding products, and this will be our first pet food brand, and it will be targeting the Thai market. What does it mean in numbers? We have unchanged ambitions. Still, a sales revenue of around 15 billion baht in 2020. Like I mentioned, we are well on our way. In 2017, we had a good volume development, and we had a good profitability. We assume that we can further grow, and our ambition will be to do this with a pace of around 15% in the coming years. And here in the red bars, you see those plans. These are our original projections in our strategy, and with the additional measures we are taking now, we expect that we can grow further, and that is reflected in the purple part of the bars. Specifically for 2018, we expect to grow our sales revenues to 11.2 billion baht. That would be a 15% increase in sales compared to 2017. And we expect that our gross profit margin will remain around 10 to 10.5 billion baht. This assumes that exchange rates will be more or less the same. We anticipate an exchange rate with the US dollar between 31 and 32 baht. To our gross profit, 10 to 10.5 is a bit more conservative than what we actually delivered in 2017, and this is related to the last quarter's actual exchange rate, which affected our gross profit slightly. We expect to sell 4.6 billion baht in our frozen seafood business, which is a growth of 13%. And this assumes that we will sell more shrimp, that we will get started in our sea bass processing. And in this target, we assume that squid business will remain modest. Tuna. Our tuna business, we assume it will remain stable at 1.1 billion baht. And for our pet food business, we anticipate more than 20% growth to 3.2 billion baht. Our aqua feed also quite ambitious growth of 27% to 1.9 billion baht, and this comprises all species, both shrimp, sea bass, and other fish species. And then corrected for some intercompany transactions, this would be altogether around 11.2 billion baht. Looking at the overall distribution, then this would mean around 40% of our sales would be from frozen seafood. Pet food would be 28%, and tuna will be relatively modest with 10%. And this mix of product is also well in line with our longer-term ambitions. Herewith I conclude my presentation about the results of 2017 and the the Q4 results. If there are any questions, please go ahead. I got one I got one question via internet. Have you acquired any new major customer for pet food in the year 2017, and how many new major customers have you acquired on average per year in the past 3 years? We have, I can tell, in the past 3 years, we have not acquired major customers, but excuse me, we have increased business with a few good customers and grown together with them, and as such these have become major customers. We are currently identifying other markets, and particularly the European market, where we are relatively underrepresented, especially in the pet food sales to pet stores and retailers. That's where we are focusing on, and I expect that we will get a significant expansion of our customer base, including major customers in that market this year. I have another question here. Because of the very strong baht last year, are you able to negotiate with the customer for the frozen business to compensate the currency loss at all? Yes. In pet food, we have 1-year fixed price contracts, although in most contracts there are clauses that we can increase our sales prices in case of major input increases. But obviously this is not an easy process. In shrimp and in frozen seafood, our contracts are much shorter, varying from one-off shipments to 1 month to 2 to 3 months contracts. So the exchange rate effects in that part of our business is much lower than in our pet food business. I think cost of labor increased this year starting from April. How much in Thai baht will this impact your company overall? Please give us a rough number. Yes, cost of labor increased around 6% this year. Labor costs are a significant part of our input cost, and it very much depends on the product that we produce, but roughly this will increase our product base between 0.5 and 1.5%, our product cost. I think I already answered some of the other questions that are sent over through internet. Any other questions? Okay, if not, then I thank you for coming here at this early hour at the start of the week. I hope to see you next time, and we are planning to give a more in detail update about our strategy on March 6th. That will be a press conference followed up by a analyst meeting in the afternoon. So in case you're interested, please welcome. Thank you very much.